Okay, that video went long, so I'll make sure this goes short to compensate. Um, the the yeah, okay. So the point of this is that uh, a lot of people, really more history people, think that when you look at art from years ago, you can capture the time and place that it was created is reflected in the art. By the way, I think that's true. I don't mean to. I said it wasn't my favorite. I don't mean to say that it's not true. I think it is true. If you look at a work of art from a particular time and place, it will give you a sense. A really good piece of art will capture the spirit of the time and place in which it was written. I just think that's kind of I don't like it personally, and we'll talk more about why as we get into philosophers that I like more than Pope. Um, and Plato and Sydney also, but we're going to get we'll get to people I like better. Actually, the next philosopher we're looking at is my very favorite. Um, so, but I just think it's limited. I think there's a lot of people who treat art like a history lesson. So whenever they teach you art, they spend all this time teaching you about what life was like back then and what people were like and the rules and the world and who was king and what war was going on. And I think it's not that it doesn't do that. You can certainly learn about history from art, but I just always think it's sort of boring. Like I think art is more. We have a whole history department. If you want to study history, take a history class. If you take a theater class to learn Shakespeare plays, you should. I would personally rather be doing. I don't want to learn history. If I wanted to learn history, I would have been a history major and I would take history classes. I'm learning Shakespeare because I think there's something bigger at stake. I think Shakespeare's, as someone very famously said, he's not for he's not for a particular age, a time and place. He's for all times and places, and that's overdoing it a little bit, I think. But the point is that when I look at a work of art, I'm not interested in the way it reflects the time and place that it was made. I'm interested in what it has to tell me about today, about my life, and the world that I live in. And I think Shakespeare has a lot to say about the world that we currently live in. But there's a certain kind of writing and lit major, a certain kind of English major, who's really more of a secret historian. Just like there are a lot of writing and lit majors and English majors who are secretly really more philosophers than they are literary critics. And I am not really a historian. I'm a little bit of a philosopher, but we'll talk about that more. Um, okay, cool. So this is Hamlet's point. Let's finish this up here and get to the end of this. So he says if you overdo it, he says this overdone come tardy off, though it makes the unskillful laugh, cannot but make the judicious grieve. Meaning if you act like a crazy cartoon character, dumb people will laugh at you and they'll have a good time. Like it will entertain. If you overdo it, if you're stomping your feet and screaming and shouting, he says a lot of regular everyday people, unskillful people, dum-dums, are going to be entertained. But people who know what they're doing are going to be sad that you're doing such a bad job. Um, he says the censure of which one must in your allowance or weigh a whole theater of others. Meaning if one intelligent person thinks you're doing a bad job, and 100 dum-dums think you're doing excellent, you should ignore the dum-dums and pay attention to the experts, the people who know what they're talking about. Um, and Hamlet here goes on to say, oh, there be players that I have seen and heard others praise, and that highly, not to speak it profanely, that neither having the accent of Christians nor the gait of a Christian pagan or man have so strutted and bellowed that I thought some of nature's journeymen had made them, and not made them well, they imitated humanity so abominably. He says a lot of actors, they're supposed a job of an actor is to act like a person. And he says a lot of them, I feel like it's like nature made them like it's like they were made not by God but by God's shitty apprentice because they're acting like people but they're doing such a bad job. They're like terrible imitations of people. It's like I guess his point is that if you see somebody yelling and screaming and stomping their foot on stage, like it makes you think if that's realism, then if that's good acting, then I guess there must be people out there who are this ridiculous. And Hamlet says that's not how it is. These actors imitate humanity abominably. They do a terrible job imitating regular everyday people. Um, and the actor says, I hope we've reformed that indifferently with us, sir. Right? Because the actor, this is a lot of advice for Hamlet to be giving to a professional actor. And it's amazing that Hamlet knows all of these things. Sorry, I got a lot of mosquitoes out here now. It's amazing that Hamlet knows all of this stuff. And the actor's like, okay, well, we try to do a good job, dude. Um, and Hamlet, he says, well, I think we fixed that basically. He says, oh, reform it altogether. And let those that play your clowns be, actually, you know what? We don't need this anymore. I think we're done. And then the actors come and then they do the play. Okay, cool. So I don't think I need to do any more Hamlet today, but that's a crucial point. One thing I want to talk about briefly, as I mentioned earlier, you can treat this is I'm going to say this again and again because it's one of the most important lessons from the whole class. You can treat actors, I'm sorry, you can treat characters in a play like they're real people, and you can talk about Hamlet like he's a real person. Um, but don't forget to talk about what the author is doing and what audiences get out of it. And that's important here because a lot of people will say, oh, do you know Shakespeare? He said the whole point of art is to hold a mirror up to nature. Well, no, he didn't. Shakespeare did not say that. Hamlet said that. But just because Shakespeare has a character say something doesn't mean Shakespeare agrees with it. Many characters in Shakespeare talk about how great it is to murder people. It doesn't mean that Shakespeare thinks murdering people is a great idea. There's got to be you got to notice kind of the difference. It's really crucial to sort of notice that Hamlet is just a character. And while he says a lot, it's not necessarily the most trustworthy guide. I mean, because Hamlet's here talking about how people better be realistic, and Shakespeare's written a play where there are ghosts, and he has plays with all kinds of crazy, unrealistic things in them. So it's not like Shakespeare's the biggest realism dude who ever lived, although he's very true to people. His more than anybody else, Shakespeare's realism really comes in terms of characters. Shakespeare characters feel like real human beings more than any other work of literature or movie I've ever seen. They sometimes they're the only Shakespeare characters seem so real. They're like people that I know. Like I feel like their psychologies are so perfect. They're almost real people. And that's Shakespeare's realism, is in the characters. They feel like three-dimensional people. Not all of them, by the way. Hamlet feels like a real person. Claudius is a little bit more of a two-dimensional bad guy. In fact, one of the great tragedies of Hamlet, the story, one of the great tragedies in Hamlet is that he seems to be a complex human being surrounded by dumb cartoon characters. Who have, Claudius is like, I will poison the sword, and then I will also poison the cup, and I will poison these drapes, and will poison everything. It's kind of a, it's ridiculous. He's like a cartoon character, like Scar from The Lion King or something. So, but Hamlet is a very complex person, and like complex people, there's a lot of like real people. This is a crucial thing about Shakespeare plays. When you go to the movies, usually it's like, these are the good guys, you like them. These are the bad guys, you don't like them. You don't like Thanos, you like Captain America. But in this thing, because Hamlet's like more like a real person, it's almost like, it's like, I don't know what, like there are things about him I like and there are things about him I hate. And that's how I feel about like my best friend. Like I love my friend, but he drives me crazy sometimes, So the Shakespeare characters are like real people. And Shakespeare has like 5 or 6 characters that are just like fully functioning human beings. I feel like they could just walk out of the play and be real people. Some of them, and I'll say this crazy thing, some of Shakespeare's characters seemed more realistic than actual human beings I've met, meaning they seem like more complete people than people. Sometimes people I know seem like cartoon characters, and bad actors, and people that I see in Shakespeare plays feel like real people. So that's a kind of crucial thing. So I think I pretty much ramped this up, and I'm gonna. That's it for the day. I know we're one video short, but there's also, I want you to watch the videos of the kid in Star Wars. So okay, I think we're doing good, and thanks for joining me. And we will hit another philosopher, my favorite philosopher, next time.